Thank you so much for being part of the session today. My name is Holger Kobler and I'm part of Udacity since 3 years now. Udacity is the market leader in upskilling in the most wanted tech-forward skills, although we do a lot more than that and also support and reskilling and hiring of top talent around the world. Our CEO always tends to say that Udacity changes lives and businesses, and I think that is true. I personally have been part of many life-changing moments and also programs where we have made it possible for organizations to start something new and get measurably better in what they do through digitalization. Let me give you a couple of examples of an industry that, at the moment, from our experience, is the industry with the most impactful transformations going on. So the car manufacturing industry, for instance, if you look at the sales and marketing department, where customers of ours have already implemented their omni-channel presence, but think that they have an additional business case of a couple of 100 million more revenue per year if they would treat data better than they do it today. We have successfully trained organizations in marketing and sales where the people now are able to better understand, interpret, and present data to untap their business case. And on the other side, in the same industry, with a shortage of chips and also parts, having helped organizations to change their supply chain and help build additional cases up to 30% more free cash flow by determining automatically which cars only need parts that are available now. For those of you who haven't heard anything about Udacity before, we are located in the space between a classical MOOC and a bootcamp. We combine the best of both worlds and can therefore guarantee massive scale, cost efficiency, and most important, practitioner level skills. Our programs can be measured against a critical business outcome. For the past 12 months, they have been very exciting for us because we have seen a shift in corporate academies, or a shift to corporate academies, that are now aligned with the strategic top-line goals and KPIs of a critical business transformation, where failing of this transformation would really mean the irrelevance in the respective industry the clients are in. That shift has a knock-on effect for everything that has to do with hiring and learning. The conditions have never been like this before. And today I want to talk about our experience in exactly that field. All evidence you will see here comes from 3 different sources. A McKinsey research that we have asked them to do for us, our own research, and personal customer interviews that either my teams or I have personally done. I would like to walk you through the problem that our clients see, the solution they tried, and what they describe as their requirements to shift from not being perceived as strategic to now having to report on strategic outcomes. And today, I'm not alone. With me is Randy Meijer from E.ON. Randy is the head of learning ecosystem at digital empowerment at E.ON and has over 10 years of experience on enabling learning at scale within the energy industry. Randy will take over after me and talk about how E.ON has managed to scale learning and what success looks like from a customer perspective. Randy, over to you for a short introduction.
Yeah, many thanks, Holger. Very pleased to be here together with you. As Holger already said, Head of Learning Ecosystem Management. It means that we're creating the infrastructure, the learning infrastructure to make learning, mostly on digital topics, at scale possible throughout E.ON with over 70,000 employees. So happy to be here and share some experience where we are and which choices we made after Holger's part.
Thank you very much, Randy, for being with us. All right, diving right into the topic. So what's the problem? Recently, I have been with a CHRO of a customer of ours who again comes from the car manufacturing industry. I promise you, by the way, it will not be completely today about car manufacturing. But I think the meeting was very impactful for both of us, for our client and also for us, because what the person said, actually, the CHRO of this company, was that they have never done something like this before. They themselves feel that the transformation that they have to do in the next years is something that the whole industry hasn't seen before. And it is about transforming so many people with so many new skills in such a short period of time. And there's absolutely no way, according to her, that they would be able to solve this problem with hiring people from externally. On top of that, the people part of the transformation, she said, her whole industry has never seen something like this before. How familiar does this sound with you? But I think enough from the car manufacturing industry. How does the reality look like at the moment for most companies? If you look at the corporate objectives of most companies that we talk to, it is on the one hand side, embracing the digital transformation, and on the other hand side, avoiding the digital disruption through ever more competitors coming up in the same space that our clients are in. Going one level down to the business strategies, it's all about growing revenue through technology, it's all about reducing costs through technology, and it's all about lowering the risk through technology. The challenges, however, remain in most of the industries the same. OEMs and big techs and other startups are coming in and disrupting the market of the clients. Data is treated as the new horsepower. There's almost no organization at the moment that is not talking about getting more data driven to help the customer achieve the business strategies laid out here. And yeah, tech firms stealing and attracting the talent from them and also from the market that they would like to hire from. And then finally, the lack of relevant technical talent to lead the change that they have to go through. If we look at the required capabilities for most of the organizations going through such a situation, it is just about people. I think about a year or maybe 5 years ago, we would have talked about people, process, and technology, this very famous triangle that most of you are familiar with. But according to our research and also the experience that we have from recent conversations, the triangle is pretty much solved. When it comes to new technology, everyone at the moment in the industry has at least one, if not two, or maybe even 3 contracts with large cloud providers. And if these organizations think about new technology, it's just a matter of, okay, where does the data reside, to stay with that example of being more data driven? Oh, it resides in that cloud. Okay, by the way, they are the best in machine learning. So we just do 3 clicks and all of a sudden you have more technology available through this already prepaid contract. When it comes to processes, most of the organizations we're dealing with in the past 2-3 years have hired or educated, let's say through learning environments, people to be specialists, to look at the processes. And now it's about the rest of the people, not the specialists, the other employees that have to basically work with that technology in those processes. And here it's about upskilling and reskilling, as hiring really is the biggest problem at the moment. So how can you actually close that talent gap in the digital space? From our experience again, and having spoken to the top voices in HR and also the business in organizations that we're working with, it's basically 2 things that you can do. External hiring versus, sometimes called as versus, reskilling and upskilling. And what we've done here to make this relevant for you is we spoke to a couple of professionals in the HR space to understand how they at the moment see each and every option to close the talent gap. On the hiring side, what we hear a lot is, we have a couple of 100 open roles already since last year. We will have the same amount this year, and we will have even more next year. Before we can hire them, they will potentially even go to Amazon, Google, and the likes. So we have not really a chance to hire them. Yeah, we get enough applications, but when you then ask the next question and drill a little bit down on the quality of the applications, most of the HR professionals and also business professionals admit that the quality that is needed is not really given in all the applications that are coming through. And then once hired, most of the organizations tell us it's very difficult to either enable them in the domain that they should work in, or when they are already having the domain knowledge, getting them up to speed with the skills that they need. If you look on the other side, again, asking a couple of HR professionals, what are they saying about the reskilling and upskilling experience from the last 2 years? Actually, the point that we heard the most is that it's very difficult to get the time commitment from the business leaders. And actually, that was the point that almost everyone raised as make it or break it in the learning. The next point is, I cannot measure what the business requests in terms of the outcome that they would expect from the learning. And then it's almost impossible to have the content relevant to what the people need and deliver it at scale needed from the business side. And then finally, we asked the business professionals too, what they think about the reskilling and upskilling initiatives that they have gone through in the last 2 years. And yeah, it was very much the same in different words, but we put it like this. They said, we don't really get what we want and also what we need, and we don't perceive this as serious learning. So if we sum this all up, if we sum this all together, the net was that hiring is very expensive, it's unscalable, and it's at the moment in the market conditions that we're in, almost impossible to achieve the goal. However, looking on the other side, if that should be the solution for it, how is at the moment reskilling and upskilling perceived? It's not green, as you will realize here, but it's more cost effective. On the other side, it's very difficult to achieve the serious learning results that the business is trying to achieve. So if upskilling is so difficult to scale and done seriously as it should, we asked our most successful clients that have made significant progress here about what they think their required capabilities are to deliver what the business needs. And we grouped them in 8 different groups, and I would like to walk you now through those results. The first is focus on serious up and reskilling versus learning. The feedback was that it is necessary to deliver business capabilities at scale to ensure that employees can perform, innovate, and grow in critical business. That was common sense between everyone that we talked to and seen as the first thing that needs to be different according to the things that have been done in the past 2 years. The second is program design. So according to the clients that we spoke to, it needs to be co-designed with internal and external experts, no longer just relying on internal creation of content. This is very hard to maintain and almost every time at the point when it's created out of date. On top of it, what they said is that there needs to be a clearly articulated learning journey for the different topics that need to be learned, and fragmentation and piecemeal should stop, because the effect that the last 2-3 years brought to most of these large organizations is that they had a portal or many portals, and it was very difficult to navigate the topics. And even if you search for a specific topic, you would get 3 different or even 4 or 5 different things that you could learn, but with no guarantee that at the end of the day, it's exactly delivering the skills that were needed for the task in front of them. The next point is timing and way of learning. Very critical feedback was that it should be time-bound. What does it mean, time-bound? You could also say cohort-based. And the comparison that the organizations were making is the same as the governance training and the compliance training and the security training that have to happen every year and are mandatory. These were the effects that these organizations have seen when you do the training that is necessary for the digital transformation in the same way, because no one really questions them. Most of the people don't like the trainings when I say security training or compliance training, but at the end of the day, the whole organization knows they have to go through, and at the end of the day, you are reducing risk when doing it. And the same should happen from these clients' perspective on, for instance, learning around data and cybersecurity. Cohort-based, as I said, the same, and also interactive and not just listening to videos and reading text. On top, they said embedded, it needs to be embedded in the day-to-day work and not seen as an additional job on top of the work. And that's also something that needs to be embedded in the learning culture of the organization, and also supported by the executives and also by the business leaders that at the end of the day give or have to give the time to the learners. Interesting feedback just recently from a large manufacturing organization that is not listed on top here, but feedback here was also that it, on the one hand side, should be cohort-based for the really important stuff that needs to be learned by everyone in the organizations. But also on top, you have also a small population of people that want to do additional learning. So on top of the time-bound cohort-based learning, there should also be a curated free learning for people that just want to do more than what is expected from them. The next point is instructors. So it should be a mixture between asynchronous and synchronous learning with people that come in as instructors and help learn on the topic. Besides that, this should foster the community building, and it should be a pairing between company experts that know the internal of the company and also industry experts that are subject matter experts to the fields that are learned at the moment. Business leaders should or needs to be involved directly, and that solves also the embedding into the day-to-day work. But also when you think about one of the other objections that we already handled on the previous slide. So when the business is perceiving not the value that they want or that they need, it's also recommended by these organizations to immediately take them into the conversation when it's about, okay, who should be learning and what exactly should they be learning? The next point here, key learning activities. Focused on measurable practical skill attainment. This one is very, very interesting for a lot of large organizations who have started to work with skill taxonomy in the background. So if you work with skill taxonomy, it should be a recommendation that you also work on a way to immediately measure the skills attained while the learning is ongoing, because it immediately gives you feedback on how you're tracking against the skills that are at the moment in need. Programs, projects, assignments that should be tailored to the company's needs. Organizations reported two things. First of all, the programs and projects should be very close to the actual business need, but also there could be programs and projects that are directly coming from the company itself. The next one here, funding and operations, a very, very interesting point, because most of you that come from the HR space have a budget of around $1,000 per learner per year, and think about learning days 3 to 4 per year per person. And the thing is that coming back again to digital transformation, and maybe in the example of data governance, data literacy, and the topic of being more data driven, most of the organizations who drove this forward in the last years have realized that the typical L&D budget is not sufficient for those kind of programs. And therefore the need was coming up to have this funded by the business leaders and also the chief HR officer, the chief learning officer. And why is this so important? This might sound in the beginning a bit like, okay, you need to pay for this. But the idea behind that was the thinking that changed a little bit in these organizations, that, okay, we're tying our learning activities directly to a transformation that's going on in the business. And this transformation has to be successful in the business, because otherwise irrelevance of us in the industry that we're working with. So at the end of the day, the business case that sits behind that is a couple of billion, if not hundreds of billions strong. And if you compare that to the cost of a learning initiative, that is actually a pretty good business case to go to the business with and just explain to them that this is the way how these special programs that are explicitly tied to transformation should be funded, and should go outside of the typical $1,000 per person per year funding. And that in itself, also because of the way how these budgets are put together, typically for a full year, and if you have to act within the year, that makes it really difficult to get the money for it. However, operations should be done by HR and L&D, because they are actually the specialists to run exactly these programs. Scalable to the whole organization. That's actually another very, very interesting point, and it was in twofold scalable. So first of all, from the top down, so from leadership through the people that actually work on the business cases and work in the business units, and then down to the specialists. So that should come from just a couple of minutes to a couple of hours learning to maybe 20, 30 hours learning, and then on the specialist level, 120 to 160 hour learning, with a clear pathway between the 3 different layers, that they use the same language moving forward, but also then from left to right in the organization, not only thinking about IT and subject matter experts in the space of digitalization, but also thinking about all the business units that have to work more with data. If you talk about production, if you talk about R&D, if you talk about procurement, if you talk about supply chain, what have you, all these departments need training. And then again, with the levels from top to bottom. Generating common language, I already mentioned this, and fostering the community. And here, a story from one of the organizations where the CTO office basically came to us and said that something happened that he didn't really expect, which was the community building. So he said, for the first time, people that are working in different parts of the business started to realize that when they are getting more data driven, they can work together, they have to work together, and they liked it actually, and they were using the same language, and they particularly invested even more into that to foster the community building and increase the level of communication, which increased the productivity in those areas. And the last box here is my favorite, to be honest, because at the end of all these interviews that we had with those organizations, some of these came to us and said, actually, in this whole process of scaling the learning initiatives and overcoming the initial problems that we had in the first 2 years, we realized that we need to change the perspective on a couple of things, and that really unlocked a huge potential for us. And I would like to walk you through them example by example. One said that we needed to involve the thinking about the cost effectiveness per learner. And this goes back to the funding and operations part. They said as soon as they changed the perspective on that, there was a consensus building in the organization happening, where from the board level downwards to the middle management, down to the people in the learning and development, they realized that the business case is, first of all, that big, and second of all, that strong, that the cost effectiveness per learner isn't really a measurement that they can take to account here, and especially not in buying these solutions, because, as I said before, the business case is so strong, and also the negative consequences of failing in that learning is so severe for these organizations. The second point is evolve our thinking about the easiest for the employee. A lot of the learning specialists that we talk to in the beginning of their journey in making, in scaling basically learning, said that we were asking our learners on how exactly they have perceived the learning, and then we were concerned about the Net Promoter Score and about the feedback that the learners gave us on learning. When it comes to transforming a whole organization, so let's say 50,000 or 100,000 people, and making them ready for the digital transformation that's in front of them, taking the employee feedback is something that you have to be very careful with. This is what they said to us. And the reason is that the normal human being doesn't like change. Change is something that is only done when it's really, really necessary. Of course, you have always the people that want to learn and want to develop themselves, but there are 90% more people in the organization that don't have the same perception of learning and the same appreciation of change. And these are the people that these academies particularly took care of. And when they talk to the business leaders that were responsible for most of those 90% of the learners, they said, whenever you take this feedback of the learners too serious, this is too long, this is too hard, this is too much project work, what actually was created was the situation that the outcome for the learner and for the business unit to achieve their business goal was taken away bit by bit by bit by bit. And I was personally part of a conversation within a manufacturing organization where they decided then afterwards that they balance the feedback. And pretty much the same example of compliance trainings where no one really looks at the Net Promoter Score. But because everyone has to do it, they have taken the feedback serious, but have always carefully weighed it in with the learning that needs to happen for the business and for the transformation. The next point, evolve the thinking about what we believe we need. It goes back to business leaders directly involved. It goes back to embedded in the day-to-day work, the time commitment, and also the satisfaction of the business side when it comes to having the skills then attained. It is massively important from the feedback from these organizations that you take the business into the conversations when structuring the content, because that necessarily gives you the chance to deliver exactly what the business is asking of you. And the last point here, evolve the thinking about and take one partner that has the widest range. Was also a very interesting conversation between at least 3 of these organizations and us, where they said, look, if I go back in history, the last 2 to 3 years have been like this. 3 years ago, someone said to us, yeah, you need to educate our people in digital transformation. And we took on the first MOOC, and then we took on the second MOOC. And that went relatively well for the first year because it was easy to procure. It was easy to integrate them into our organization. In the second year, we had procurement conversations going on where procurement suggested to us, hey, why not we consolidate on a third one? The cost would be less, again, cost effectiveness per learner. And we would save some money, and they actually take care of 90% of the topics that we have in those other 2 MOOCs. And these companies took it on. But now this led to a situation where they are not delivering on the needs the business has. And in fact, we know of a handful of Global 2000 organizations that scaled exactly like this in the first 2 years, relatively quickly with those MOOCs. But they have now either completely switched off these MOOCs, or they are replacing them in critical areas around data, AI, and cyber with serious upskilling providers. Now, to have these requirements is one thing, but the really fun part starts when you implement that. And yeah, we're happy to share the how, but I would like to hand over for this now to Randy, and that he can walk us through his experience in E.ON and how this is exactly going on there. Randy, over to you.
Thank you, Holger. No worries. I'm not here to tell you some perfect story on how great things are at E.ON and how perfect everything works, because there are difficulties. I'm here to tell you an honest story of where we are, what works and what doesn't work, and which choices we made. With that, I hope you're able to mirror that to your own organization with hopefully some takeaways that can help in your daily work. So first, a little bit on E.ON itself. We're an energy company, one of the largest ones in Europe, with over 72,000 employees and over 48 million customers. So as you might notice, the energy market is in transition. And it's really a new game, and digitalization is one of the key challenges that we have. And that's the challenge that we have at hand and that we need to tackle. And that also means that the board really indicated a few strategic pillars where digitalization is being one of them. I will quickly switch to a 2-minute video that gives a little bit of an impression of why that's the case, and then pick it up from there.
Many industries have been radically changed through digitization, information and communication, entertainment, banking. Some companies took bold decisions and revolutionized their business. Some have made disastrous mistakes and were disrupted. The biggest changes have been driven by technology and new digital opportunities. All over the world, companies improve efficiency and services across their entire scope of operations by implementing innovative technologies and digital devices, generating trillions in value. And how about E.ON? How will we empower our employees to think digital and provide them with the necessary capabilities and tools to embrace digital change? How will we engage customers and our partners to provide solutions along the entire customer journey in order to fight back digital disruptors? How will we exploit connected assets and process automation to run our grid highly efficiently, and to enable harmonized sales and solution platforms. How will we leverage both an outside-in and inside-out perspective in generating new digital business models? Digitization is already changing our company through quantum computing, AI, and digital wearables. But is that enough? Now we have the opportunity to become the leading digital energy company.
So that's our digitalization strategy in a nutshell. So you saw the different elements there, and especially that fourth pillar, empower our employees, is the one that I'm working on together with the unit called Digital Empowerment. It's really about building the required digital skills and learning culture through a group-wide learning platform, for example, and more on that one in a minute. So empower employees is really seen that at on-board level that is a key strategic aim for the success of E.ON as a whole. So up to board level, we really have support for this topic, and that's actually non-debated, which really helps us on our delivery. Zooming in on the unit then. So digital empowerment is the name of the unit, and we deliver the digital toolset, skill set, and mindset, empowering all our employees to transform E.ON to an all-digital company. We do that through a variety of things. For example, building that one group-wide learning experience platform, and through the design and deployment of a variety of learning journeys on digital skills. So we're part of the digital technology function, so we're not an HR unit, although closely collaborating with HR, of course. This as setting the scene, I will now walk you through the required capabilities that Holger presented and share how we tackle those at E.ON. The first one is the serious up and reskilling. So at the, let's say, the inception of our unit now a couple of years back, we started with doing a group-wide survey on identifying what are the key digital skills that people need. So we got over 10,000 responses, and with that we were able to identify the most demanded skills. So we clustered them in 12 skill clusters with 95 underlying skills, which form our digital skills taxonomy. So those 12 skill clusters are split on some core skills that are relevant for all, and more specialized skills that are relevant for a subset of our employees. So just to highlight, we didn't go the critical roles route at all. E.ON also doesn't have a role catalog. We're very much in the game of skill-based upskilling. We felt that that's the best way to get moving and get the highest speed and flexibility to go on our journey. Also, again, I want to highlight, so up to board level, these digital skills and the digital skill taxonomy is adopted. And in that sense, also really seen as a serious topic. If I move then to the second box, the program design. So the digital skill taxonomy is the foundation of our digital learning journeys, which we offer then on our learning experience platform, which is at cost. So whether you call it learner experience, wow effect, UX, UI, the how side, bottom line, this is for us equally important as to what we offer. So that also means that within our unit, we have UX, UI experience, comms and engagement to tell our story, and increasingly also video production expertise to really make sure that we bring high quality learning over in the best possible experience to the learners. Those are maybe type of expertise that you typically don't find in an L&D unit within HR, but are increasingly important to have in. And in that sense, it also benefits us that we're part of the digital technology space to attract the right talent. We apply the 70-20-10 philosophy, I think familiar to most of you within our journey. So there's also space for social learning, digital communities, and applying learning. Still a bit more formal towards case studies and hackathons and more. And the learning journeys are focused on those core skills and those more specialized ones. And we have certain target group specific journeys, like for top 100 or for a certain leadership. One of our key design principles is to work closely together with our subject matter experts. And that's definitely to give context to the specific skill in the energy market and towards E.ON. Sometimes it's a delicate balance. We might be spending a bit too much of working together with SMEs to also help them out in creating the best possible content and videos. But we truly believe, and we also see that in our ratings, that nuance and that application to your own organization really helps the adoption and the experience of the learners. Next to the journeys, we still have also standalone learning content available to people to upskill in the moment of need, also via smaller nuggets. Increasingly, we mix and match a variety of suppliers, internal and external content. So also, for example, Udacity and its nano degrees. And also the nano degrees are still offered as standalone ways, as is highly appreciated by our internal employees. And my takeaway on this box is to find that right balance between, okay, where do you want to speed up and standard content will do, versus where do you really spend time on creating something internally to improve the experience for the learner. So try to find that right balance and keep the time to market, so to say, and the quality in mind. When we move to the third box, the timing and way of learning, yes, we very much use in the learning journeys and in the target group specific upskilling, and also in the Udacity nano degrees, the cohort logic. So for Udacity, we do 2 cohorts a year, each 6 months. Studies show that there's then a higher degree of graduation when you do it like this, and we also get positive feedback from the learners that they are able to connect amongst each other and help each other out. We are, and hopefully will not be anymore, struggling with the fact that there's of course also demand in between those cohorts. And there we definitely want to offer also the additional possibility for people to do it by themselves and really get going when they have their availability, and that they don't need to wait for the start of a cohort. What that will mean for graduation rate and ratings in itself, time will tell, and we definitely will keep an eye on the data side to see what we can learn from that one. All our upskilling is not mandatory. So yes, there are those type of discussions as well internally, and next also to formalizing time for learning and to improve the learning culture. But these are quite complex matters, also in a very German-centric organization as E.ON is. So we're on our road to improve that. But this means that at the moment, we're very much trying to pull people in, and all the learning that we offer is optional. And therefore, etc., that learning experience is a key element. Going to the next one, the instructor side of things. The journeys, definitely the target group-based ones, are a mix of self-study and live events. Again, also enabled by our learning experience platform, mostly offered in English. And during these live events, also keynotes from external and internal experts are provided. What works within E.ON then is also to have kind of senior recognizable speakers there, can also be internal sponsors, to increase the attendance. After completion of a formal journey, people are then guided also to our digital communities to keep exchanging and learning, also beyond the formal end of a journey. The next one is the key learning activities. And this is, I ain't gonna lie, this is the element where we definitely still have room for growth, as this whole skill level growth tracing on an employee level is still work in progress. And the logic we're heading for, and that's in line with what Holger told, will be that there will be a mix a match between the learning experience platform and a talent platform that is in the works to have that group-wide skill taxonomy. Can be that external readily available one, enriched with some E.ON specific language with a variety of skill levels. And then we want to link the learning, can also be projects and job locations, to achieving a certain skill level. This requires quite some effort to get that in place with tagging. How do you tackle that internationally? And also the question remains in our skill-based approach, if and how this will be potentially then linked to a career growth. So a topic that still is taking some time to get in place. What is the case is that our KPIs are very effort-based, with still those NPS scores, usage, etc. However, that type of effort is recognized by the board that is resulting then in skill growth and success for the organization. And that A leads to B logic, that is not debated. So this works for us at E.ON. And even if senior persons are raising this topic, it does help to have that consistent story and stick to that line. So honestly, I also actually don't believe truly that you can calculate, for example, an ROI on learning. And yes, Udacity, I am looking at you as well. I think there needs to be that board level commitment and belief in the topic, including the impact it has on employee satisfaction, retention, being an attractive employee, and all those matters, without having maybe a concrete formula and a money-wise impact behind it. Again, E.ON specific circumstances. If we then move to the next one, the funding. All the things that we offer as a digital empowerment unit, our journeys, the platform, the external third-party learning content, our digital communities, etc., is funded by the business based on an allocation key. So currently our costs are split over the entities based on the number of KIDs, so number of, let's say, persons, as part of the HR bill, normalized on a country welfare level. So this is a fixed number per year. This means that whether employees are not using it all one time per week or 24/7, the number stays the same. But this is, has maybe two sides. First and foremost, you democratize learning, equal opportunity, and you don't punish more effort on learning. And the other way around, you're paying anyway, so why not you will have a try with it and go ahead and make use of it. So truly funded by the business as a fixed amount. Then the next one is the scalable to the whole organization. And I think that's the one that I'm actually most proud of and what we achieved there the past years, mainly through digitalization and the technology side of things. In general, there's a strong move in E.ON to move to standardized group-wide IT infrastructure. So with the dozens of entities that you have within the E.ON group, it helps that a majority and still increasing number of employees are using the same infrastructure. So similar access to platforms, communication channels, intranets, etc., where we can also link, of course, to our learning opportunities. But also it helps in our learning experience platform and accessing learning content, including external partners, because when you have that KID, you can really work with single sign-on, get a smooth and seamless experience for the learner, combine things in an integrated learning history, etc. And that really improves the learner experience. So now we can offer in a few clicks learning journeys, mixing different channels and formats in a few clicks to tens of thousands of people, and that's really a huge benefit. I've also experienced the other side in my previous role, also on the HR learning and development side, where we also try to tailor the technical setup to the local demands with all kinds of workarounds to enable usage. I don't think that that's the way to go. This is truly a huge effort, really risking the sustainability, but it's also not scalable. So I'm convinced that standardization on those infrastructural side of things is the route to take. And actually also as a department, you need that type of expertise or access to that expertise to improve the learning experience also within your area. For me, a key point to focus on going forward. Then in the journeys itself, going one level deeper, these are digital components as well that are scalable by nature and also enable self-paced learning. So the live events that are offered online are reaching hundreds of people in one go. And yes, we all know that changed also due to COVID. But it's still working out, and also we can record those things and publish afterwards for people to have a look again or look at a time slot that is better fitting for them. Coming to the last point, evolve the thinking about different elements. I hope I could transport that the learning experience, things like a skill taxonomy, the easy accessibility, and the scalability are for us as digital empowerment key aspects to enable our employees on their digital journey. We are using a variety of fitting content partners, and throughout E.ON, there is a vast portfolio of learning partners. If I purely reflect on the digital upskilling side, there we do have Udacity as a key partner, However, we're also using other, also more niche partners as well to ensure we offer the fitting content in the desired language in the variety of formats and channels. Though I think it will always be the case that there will be a variety of partners, I think it's good to find one key partner to cover the vast majority of your learning portfolio, maybe that foundational piece. I'm curious how that on our side will develop over the coming years. With that, in a nutshell, I hope I could share a little bit the E.ON specific situations and the different choices that we made. Hope you have some takeaways already that can help you in your daily work. And with that, I'm happy to go over to the Q&A side of things.
Okay, so we'll go now to the Q&A part. You can write your questions in the chat. I did already receive one question for Holger. Holger, you were talking about building a business case for learning. We haven't done this before. What do you recommend? How we have to start that?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Typically, how it works is like I mentioned in the presentation, that when you think about the people that have granted you the budget to move on with your learning programs, one of the things that we heard from customers is that they just went back and asked basically the people that have granted the budget where the budget exactly came from and what the measurement was to size the budget in the amount it at the end was. And that led in many situations to conversations about the actual pain that the business side perceives on the negative consequences if we would not start with that program. And that actually led to a conversation around, okay, would this be also a measurement for the program that we're running here? I think that is a good way to start that. I'm happy to dive deeper if there are further questions on that.
Thank you for that. I also have a question for Randy. How did you start with the scaling and how long did it take you? Did you hear my question?
I did hear your question. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Super. So the question was on how long it took and what was kind of the starting point. So
yes.
Definitely for the scaling, the vehicle for us is the learning experience platform, so provided by Adcast, acquired by Cornerstone. Beyond, let's say, the selection of that type of supplier and the signing of the contract, etc. I think that was in the bag, let's say November. And then there was a high effort from the team and group-wide representatives to get that platform in place with the first integrations to really offer learning at scale. And the first launch was early February towards the UK. So in E.ON world, that means like 5,000–6,000 participants. And from there were multiple waves of scaling that further and in parallel adding more content and more learning journeys, etc. to the platform. So I think the hard part is to get that board commitment, get the budget going, get the preferred partners in place. The implementation, I have to say, on our side, even that we're a very German-centric company with the data protection and workers' council side of things, I think after half a year, 3/4 of a year, we're now at a level that we can say, okay, we're truly delivering learning at scale within E.ON.
Okay, thank you, Randy. There was a follow-up question: is what is ahead and what are the next steps to improve?
Yeah, so building on that topic for what I just said, so the initial launch of the platform learning journeys is there. That means also that in the platform and how we're setting it up, we kept it simple for the user, meaning that we turned certain functionalities off, just to keep the orientation on the platform as easy as possible. Now, based on also further insights, data, etc., we can then see also what resonates well, and then turn next features on, thinking about doing better recommendations, position certain channels better, etc. So one dimension of the road ahead is just to improve the platform and the usability and ease of use of the platform itself. The second thing is also that we still have certain integrations of underlying learning platforms ahead. So there will also be more content coming in. And the third dimension for us is to make sure that we position learning even better in the flow of work of individuals. So the platform is now, let's say, the one-stop shop, but it is a separate platform. And things ahead of us are launching it on the mobile, making sure that it's integrated with Microsoft Teams, integrated with certain other processes in our company. So bringing it closer to the people in their everyday life is one of the key points that is ahead of us. So enough on our plate. We're never done. It's about continuous improvement, but definitely bring it closer to the people and make it even better.
Okay, thank you for that, Randy. People, you can still ask questions in the chat. I have another question for Holger about the funding. So the funding by the business line. Can you please share how we can best build a case to convince our organization to do that?
Yes, sure. And Randy, if you have something to add from your personal experience to that question, like, feel free to chime in. One of the things that the customers reported is what was super critical for them is get the buy-in from the business. The common mistake that was reported to us is that there was a perception of the learning department knows exactly what to train for, but that then didn't meet the requirements of the business. And the way how these organizations have solved that is that they build broad consensus between the needs of the business and what basically to offer. And relatively quickly, when this practice was done together, the learning department came to the conclusion that the standard budget, let's say it's $1,000 US, to use a currency that most of the attendees might know, per person per year is not sufficient enough. But in that whole consensus building process with the business part of the organization, the business leader who actually lead the learners that need to be more digital, they understood that it is finally something that would take the learner exactly from the point where they are and bring the learner to the point where they need to be in order to fulfill the jobs ahead of them. And it was a natural conversation for those organizations to then say, okay, would you be happy to fund that project outside of the standard L&D, so the standard learning budget? It was not something that needed a lot of convincing. It was a natural conversation as soon as the business was involved in finding the solution that this happened.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, I'm with Holger in staying here close to the business needs. I think you also really need to look at the, let's say, the characteristics of your own organization. So what we also did in addition in E.ON is kind of making it non-negotiable. So yeah, we use the hierarchical route with board commitment also to make sure that there's a consistent message throughout the company. This is something that's here to stay. This is something that you need to pay attention to, because typically, let's be honest, learning is not seen as the business critical topic often, like an add-on, which of course is wrong. It is very much key for the success of the company going forward. However, from a financial perspective, it's very important, at least it has been for us, to get that board commitment saying it's non-negotiable, you need to take those costs in. And yes, in addition, of course, closely collaborate to stay as close to the business needs as possible.
Randy, if I may ask then, how did E.ON come to the point that the board was having a consistent message down? Because what I hear from most organizations is that yes, it's on the priority list, but the board is not communicating it downwards, and that is creating then the problem of not only budget but also the time commitment that was given to learners. What made E.ON basically do that? What changed the mind of the board to then communicate it down?
The fact that it is a new board since a couple of years with a new strategy, really at prioritizing that digitalization and empowering our people. So in that sense, you can say that the strategy is also a reflection of certain dialogues in the company. And nonetheless, I think what really helped us, and that's just a momentum or being lucky to a certain degree, because before definitely also we experienced different times, that we were lucky that there was a new strategy which offered the opportunity to position learning and personal development as a key priority for the success of the organization. And the board with new board members and even a dedicated board member for the topic of digital, really associate themselves personally to that topic then. And then you have all the backing that you can have. And that also means when you're then on that route, if there's pushback from the organization, also very senior people, of course, then lucky enough we can go to the board to foster that dialogue between them. Check in with the board because this is our mandate, align on it. So that was kind of the situation, or is the situation that we're in. That in that sense, the board is playing a pivotal role for the success of our organization and for learning in general. Yeah.
Makes sense. Catherine, I think we have time for one more question. We have 1 minute left.
So a question for both. How have you made your learning costs cost effective, and how does your partner prove the ROI learning?
I'll let you answer first.
Yeah. As I said in the previous slot as well, that ROI discussion, that's kind of the holy grail. I don't believe that can be answered in all honesty. I know that Udacity is making certain calculations to make that as transparent as possible. We're trying to stay away from that one. So it's not about the ROI on the learning itself. It's the board commitment and the organizational commitment to invest in the topic. And whether that's 10 euros, 100,000, 1 million, or even more, you will always have a dialogue. Is that the right thing? And do we believe that that is worth the invest? And if we believe that personal development and that learning and development of people is key for the success of the company, that kind of justifies an investment. Now, the second part or the other part of that question is creating efficiency on it. There, I think, in all honesty, we also still have a road ahead. Like we have multiple partners, still multiple platforms, etc. And there we can also really, again, based on the data that we're now starting to gather, see what is resonating most well liked, most used, to then also make choices to make it even more cost efficient. So that would be my answer to that question. Over to Holger.
Yeah. The way how we do this in Udacity is basically twofold. One part of the calculation is based on cost reduction or prohibiting cost on an employee level. So what does it mean if you reduce the retention and if you don't have to rehire people that you might lose? So that's one part of the cost. The other part of the cost is then certainly towards the business. And by the way, the first part is in most of the organizations that we work with broadly accepted, and the HR and learning department is really, really happy with those KPIs that we deliver on that, because at the end we're using data that is public knowledge on how much it costs to hire someone, how much benefit it brings to the company if you increase the retention for employees. The other side is very interesting because we talk about the productivity increase when you are able to bring new skills into the organization. And here's something very unique to Udacity, because as most of you know, or maybe not yet know, but we differentiate in many ways. And two differentiators that I would like to mention here is the practitioner level skills. So basically that we kind of guarantee that you have a practical application of a skill after you do something with us. And then the second thing is being able to measure the skill attainment. And when you be able to measure that, you can then also measure the productive efficiency gain that you get. And when the business side of the house is in the conversation, you can tie those efficiency gains towards the business backlog that the business has, because, for instance, data is not yet treated in the right way. And that is how we do that. And I totally agree that this is a completely new topic for most L&D and HR departments, and we're giving thought leadership into that direction. On the other side, we know for sure from leading HR research institutes and also from conversations that boards in companies go to their CHROs and ask them for the return on investment. This is relatively new, but we know for sure from, first of all, those research organizations, and second, from conversations we personally have, that at the highest level of the HR organizations, these questions get asked, and there will be reporting relatively soon across the board on these numbers. Catherine, back to you.
Okay. I've realized that we're already 3 minutes over, but I have a final question. A question from the energy industry. We are facing aging in our industry. Less young people are interested in utilities. Do programs like this create an attraction for young talent? I think that's, yeah, either for Randy or Holger.
Yeah, so it's a fair observation or a statement, and that's definitely the case. Also, if you look, for example, at the grid environments where we need hands-on people putting, let's say, the copper in the ground. So that's definitely an expertise that we still need. On the other hand, and I'm also repeating a little bit certain board statements, we do believe that digitalization can create more efficiency and be smarter in the amount of work and how we do the work. Those type of challenges, and then I'm coming back to, let's say, the changing energy market, the sustainable element to it. That type of why are we doing things in combination, let's say, with the tech challenges that we have, that is attracting people. We do have certain programs to attract talent, and maybe it's not the volume that might be happening at other really tech companies. We do see that certain numbers of talent is attracted to jump into in this case, E.ON, and help shaping the future of the energy market. So yeah, we should, yeah, not for everybody, but we are happy that we are able to attract these type of talents and to help E.ON out, and of course with the development also on the job, making sure that they stay for a while in our company.
If we still have the 30 seconds, I would like to give some insight from another large energy organization that works with us, which is certainly in the situation that they are doing something that many young people cannot identify themselves anymore, and for them it is certainly a differentiator, because even in their business they have proved that the usage of AI, machine learning, and the right treatment of data can help to reduce CO2 emissions, and that is something that they have reported back to us, that then again attracted young talent, because they can help these organizations basically become greener. So, but again, this is coming from a customer, not from us.
Okay, there are no other questions. Just one little statement. Great work, E.ON.
Many thanks, and looking forward to any future actions that we might have. Many thanks.
Good, Catherine. Let me close it. So thank you very much, everyone that joined the session today. Sorry for this one hiccup in the middle. It wasn't supposed to be on the presentation today. If you have further questions, just reach out. We're happy to answer more questions if they come in via email. And again, thank you very much for participating in this webinar. Thank you very much, Randy, for taking the time to do this together with me.
Many thanks. My pleasure. Take care all. Bye-bye.